2 minutes till broadcast. One minute till broadcast. Seconds till broadcast. Five, four, three, two, one. Begin transmission.
Fighting for freedom every day.
Let me tell you, the response to the show has been absolutely amazing. People can't believe that a young conservative millennial continues to fight for constitutional principles, traditional values, and talks about issues that some are even afraid to talk about. But we do it because we understand the importance of this. And now we're seeing it absolutely blow up all across the nation.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Every daggone day it is. Welcome into the Voice of Reason. Great to have you along for the ride today. It is a Tuesday, which I understand is the toughest day of the entire week, although it's all done, so you can congratulate yourself, pat yourself on the back because you made it through a Tuesday. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heartland of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on the flagship station of the Big Talker KQAM, all over the country. As we're on numerous different radio stations, online streaming, TV. We have the live stream going on with Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, online at HoosierReason.com as well. Thanks for hanging out with us today, and what a day it's going to be. Again, trying to cram 10 pounds of reason into a 5-pound bag with a 1-hour program that we just don't have enough time to do, so we'll try and get to as much of it as we possibly can. But I do want to jump right into our guest as we have limited time with him, and I'm excited to talk to him as we've seen a transition, an evolution per se, when it comes to American politics over the last few years. And Donald Trump really has been one to start that. Or was he the product of this evolution in politics in the United States? So I'm excited to have on the author, one of the authors of the book, They're Not Listening: How the Elite Created the National Populist Revolution. Populism in America. What is it? Where did it come from? And where is it going to lead us? I'm excited to have on the program Harlan Hill with us today. Harlan, how are you, my friend?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Hey,
it's an honor.
No, I appreciate you coming on the program. It's great to have you on. Populism is such an interesting thing in politics, and it's one where just 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago really wasn't a big thing. We tried the Tea Party movement. It didn't really come out as a success. It worked for a little bit, and then it kind of faded away. But Donald Trump, is he the creation of the populist movement, or is he the product of the populist movement in American politics?
Well, first, let me sort of define in very general terms what we mean by national populism. And to simplify it, nationalism, everything that we do as a movement, everything that the president advocates while he's in the White House, is in the best interest of our country, of America. Mm-hmm. That means, to drill down, that we put American workers first. That means that in the event, and putting it into context with coronavirus, should we achieve a vaccine before any other country does, that means we vaccinate our own people first that are predisposed to it before prioritizing people from other countries. That means that we are not ashamed of American greatness and our history and our values that have gotten us to this point. And populism, everything that we do as a movement should be advancing working class people and their economic interests and their familial well-being.
Sure.
And what we've seen over the last 3, 4, 5 decades is a complete abdication of those values. In our universities, we've seen that American history is railed against. It is erased. It is besmirched. We've seen statues of our founding fathers ripped down around us. We've seen our history erased. We've seen our values erased. We've seen them attack the religious founding principles of our founding fathers in the attempt to destroy the depiction of Jesus Christ. We live in absolutely unprecedented times, and we should be ashamed as a country if at this moment in time we don't rise up and put this down, because we only get one shot. You know, civilization we take for granted. We take for granted the fact that we can we can drive to the mall, we can walk out on our street, and we don't live in fear. But increasingly in America, that is becoming a luxury only afforded to liberal elites and politicians and members of the media that have their own security details, and while the rest of us fend for ourselves. And we saw that play out in St. Louis over the weekend.
Sure.
No, I absolutely reject what has happened to our country, and we should be ashamed of ourselves if we allow hundreds of years of history to be thrown out the window and what has gotten us to this point. We should be ashamed of ourselves. This is the moment for patriots to stand up and be heard, because if you look around these countries, let's say that there are 100 cities with protests around the country. At best, you have 10,000 people protesting in those cities. That's being very generous. So you're telling me that a mob of tens of thousands of people are going to dictate the future of the American experiment? No.
Mm-hmm.
No, I absolutely not. We far outnumber these radicals.
We do. It's the silent majority that never gets heard. And as you mentioned, as you talk about in the book, it is the silent majority that has been working, that doesn't show up to rallies because they have to put food on the table by going to work every single day. They're the ones that many, like the Democrats and even some Republicans, say that they represent them while they vote against their interests when it comes to Washington, D.C., because it's about how much money they can spend, about the pet projects, about whatever else is the popular thing of the day and the flavor of the day in Washington, D.C. And finally, I think enough individuals have been frustrated enough to finally rise up enough and say we're not going to be the silent majority any longer, because you're right. When you see thousands of protests going on all over the nation with these people, this autonomous zone in Seattle with Chaz or CHOP or whatever the heck you want to call it, when you see the law enforcement being dismantled across the nation, people begin to get a little nervous with that and say, wait a second, I've stepped aside for too long. I put the blinders on for too long. Half of my family doesn't like politics. They don't want anything to do with politics because it angers them. They're the silent majority that finally says, you know what? We've turned a blind eye long enough. It's time for us to actually do something. And is that what we're seeing in the nation today?
You know, I think you've touched on something. You know, in 2016, there was a silent portion of the surveyed population in all of these national polls, and they were people who were afraid to acknowledge the fact that they supported President Trump. Well, I'll tell you, I'll admit to you that just last week I was really concerned about the prospect that the president faced in 2016. I was really concerned about the polling.
Mm-hmm.
But I spoke with a couple of different pollsters over the weekend that gave me renewed hope. They were articulating to me that they were getting two sets of results from people that were surveyed in their polls. In live calls, when people were asked about the president's performance, they were saying that they didn't appreciate what the president was doing. They thought that it was a disaster. They thought we needed a change in pace. When they surveyed the exact same voters, it was a control test, when they surveyed the exact same voters via text message, they gave the exact opposite answer to those prompts. So I think that there is an increasingly large portion of the population that is hesitant to acknowledge that they support the president. They are reticent to support him publicly, and that's been demonstrated empirically through some of the surveys, the polls that I have privy to. And I'm encouraged by them. I will fully acknowledge that I was very concerned about what I was seeing.
Sure.
But I think that there's a sizable and perhaps growing portion of the population that would, like your family, rather not discuss politics.
Mm-hmm.
And they would rather leave it to themselves, which is old-fashioned in a way. That's how it used to be. It used to be rude to ask somebody who they support. Today, you can have them fired from their job for supporting someone that you disagree with.
Sure.
There are numerous cases in the media of that.
No, it is sad. You're right. And they try and shy away from it. But I don't think it's different than what we saw in 2016 either. I mean, on election day, I remember the polling saying that Donald Trump had a 2% chance of winning on election morning. And they said that he had no way of winning, that Hillary Clinton was up by so many points. There's no way. It's already done before it's even begun. People were scared. They were talking about the lack of yard signs being sold for Donald Trump because people were concerned that it would get vandalized. Their home would get vandalized. The yard sign would get stolen. The bumper sticker would vandalize their vehicle. Whatever it was, people lived in the shadows. And I think the last 4 years of the demonization of Trump and the continued attack on Trump supporters and populists and nationalists, people who actually enjoy and love this nation, it's gotten so intense that I'm sure that they've even gone further down into the darkness because they don't want to express it. And there are some that openly support it willingly as well, but it's not nearly as much. And you're right. I think that we're going to see a major victory for Trump. The question is it working? Has the last 4 years been able to push back the elites, be able to wake up some politicians for them not properly representing the individual? And is the national populist revolution working to this point?
Well, obviously, I would always want us to progress further than we have. But we don't live. It's not like the momentum on our the momentum in our country was a return to manufacturing jobs. It wasn't like the momentum in this country was a decline in illegal and legal immigration. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like this country. We were not on a path to any of the president's agenda. We were living through the economic malaise of the Obama administration, and we saw the rates of legal and illegal immigration soar. We saw manufacturing continue to pour out of this country. And in fact, Barack Obama said that it would take a magic wand, right, to return those manufacturing jobs to the United States. And the president did. Over 3 million manufacturing jobs were brought back here. Now listen, we're going through some really tough times right now, but the president, just look at the data, he had us on the right track before this. And we can argue about how wise it was to completely shut down the American economy. There are arguments on both sides of that, and I'm conflicted.
Sure.
But there's no question that before that, if you base the president's performance on everything up until basically the end of January, it was unprecedented, the track that he had the American economy on. And we were derailed because of global events and pressure in the media to shut down the American economy in a way that's never been done in the history of our country, or frankly, in the history of the global economy. It just hasn't been done. So I think that our principles are sound. I just worry that, that we may pay the price as a movement for externalities that were beyond our control.
Sure. And they always blame Trump because Trump's always at fault because of that. Because
of course,
well, he's Trump. Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. It's Harlan Hill, co-author of the book, They're Not Listening, How the Elites Created the National Populist Revolution. We got about 20 seconds. Where can people find the book?
Yeah, so you can go to they'renotlistening.com. The book's for sale on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Target.com, elsewhere. So you can even place an order through your local bookstore. Distributed by Simon & Schuster, and it's available wherever books are sold. And you can find me on Twitter at Harlan, Harlan.
At Harlan. I love it. Harlan Hill, I appreciate it very much, my friend. We got to get you back on and talk more about this because it's a fascinating topic, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Hey,
goodbye.
Absolutely. All right, got to take a break. When we come back, we got a lot to get to, a lot to divulge, and maybe talk about some of that with the populist movement. Is it good? Is it bad? Where are we at, and where are we going from here? All that and more coming up on a Tuesday. Stay here.
With Andy Hoosier.
Hey, it's Andy Hoosier with the Voice of Reason. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left seems to find new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back, and we can help with that. Visit our website at HoosierReason.com. There's some really great stuff for you. You can read the latest blog discussing topical issues and current events. Let us know your thoughts by filling out our monthly survey. Keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Listen to the podcast of your favorite guest or show, and check out our latest Voice of Reason product infomercials. Plus, you can find upcoming show schedules and guest lineups to plan your radio listening appropriately. And finally, make sure to become a Hoosier-holic by subscribing to the free newsletter. Stay up to date on the latest news of the show, fun facts of the month, and learn new ways to defend and preserve this great republic. It's all there at HoosierReason.com. Again, HoosierReason.com. Go check it out. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Hey, it's Andy Hoosier. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HoosierReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HoosierReason.com. Miss part of the show? Don't worry about it. There's plenty of ways to catch the program, and here's how you can do it. First, make sure to tune in every day right here on your favorite radio station. We're here for you. Second, subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite sites. YouTube and iTunes, Spotify and Google Play, TuneIn, Podbean, and more. Have the show automatically downloaded to your favorite device. Last, visit our website at HoosierReason.com. You can listen to the podcast, catch our special features, and more. It's the Voice of Reason on radio, TV, and online, helping you defend and preserve this great republic. Hey, it's Andy Hoosier with the Voice of Reason. The show's growing all the time, and as we talk about the big issues of the day, one of the big parts of the program is you. And I want you to join us on the program. Whether you agree, disagree, or just want to relieve some of that political frustration, we're here for you. No matter where you may be watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment on the live stream. Chat with other listeners and let me know your thoughts on the topic. Also chat with us on the Podbean chat room. Just go to our live stream of the show at podbean.com and chat with other listeners. You can also call into the program. Just download the Podbean app onto your smartphone, join the live stream, and call in through the app. This is your show, and we want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and join us here on the Voice of Reason and the Hoosier Media Network. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with the Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hoosier-holic by going to HoosierReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hoosier Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HoosierReason.com. For a schedule of upcoming guests on the program, daily show topics, or to reach out to the Hoosier Media Network, visit us on the website at HoosierReason.com. Or for general inquiries, to be a guest on the program, or to have Andy a guest on your program, email us at HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Keep fighting for freedom with us every day right here on the Voice of Reason and the Hoosier Media Network. Now, back to the show.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Hey, welcome back into the Voice of Reason. Great to have you for the ride today on a Tuesday, doing the thing, making it happen, rebranding the millennial generation, one radio listener at a time. And it's because of you. Thank you for that, hanging out with us no matter where you may be, radio, TV, online streaming. I was a dork and forgot to start the Podbean live stream as well, because we do stream live on podbean.com, which you can find us, subscribe to us on there at HoosierReason.podbean.com. You can subscribe, you can watch us live, stream us live, leave comments there as well with the chat room in that one, chat room on the Facebook, on the YouTube, on HoosierReason.com. Doesn't matter, wherever you may be, so appreciate you hanging out with us each and every day on all the different platforms. And what a great conversation. Do you want to go or really philosophical today? It's kind of appropriate going into Independence Day weekend, I think. Personally, I'm a dork like that because I like to go into the hoorah. This is by far the most patriotic show on radio ever, 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 because we love it. We talk about the in-depthness that we need to kind of bring back American pride, to mend the American fabric of society. And if you have not done so yet, by the way, subscribe to the newsletter, because that's what the newsletter is going to be about this month, going into the American pride that we need to bring back. We had a conversation a couple days ago about the education. We did it yesterday, the Independent Women's Forum, with our guest, and she had talked about the lack of education that we have in the education system, teaching children about the proper history and civics of this nation. And I think it's extremely needed right now, especially going into the 4th of July. When you and I, most conservatives, when we look at the American flag and we hear the national anthem, we bawl our eyes out because it's the most patriotic, most amazing thing we could ever listen to. At least I do, because I'm, really softy like that. But some people don't see that. Some people don't have that emotional connection. And the reason they don't have an emotional connection is because they were never taught to have an emotional connection to it. So therefore, it's just foreign. It's just an article, just flying in the wind, and they have no idea why. When you fold the flag, the colors of the flag, the proper way you hold the flag, the proper way you do things with the flag, the proper way you retire a flag, it's never taught anymore. So they don't have that emotional connection any longer. And is populism the way to do it? And I have to admit, I have been very skeptical and very wary of a populist movement. And Donald Trump is a populist candidate, which is why I was very skeptical to support him at the beginning, which is why I was more of a Ted Cruz guy originally back in 2016 rather than a Donald Trump. Now, that's not saying I don't support Trump now, because I absolutely do. He's exactly what we need at this time. So you know what? Next segment, we'll kind of get into that a little bit, because I think it's important. I think it is important to talk about the isms just for a second. Andy, we don't like the isms. I know we don't like the isms. Conservatism, progressive-ism, nationalism, populism, socialism. They're not things that a lot of people like to talk about because it does categorize, but it categorizes based on a mindset, based on the way you live your life, based on the way you view the world, as opposed to a skin color or a gender or any of that kind of garbage, because I don't like those kinds of isms, because those are dumb. But talking about the way you live your life, the lifestyle that you have, and the way you view the world, I think is extremely important, because that shows the character of what you are. Are you a victim or are you a fighter? That really shows. So populism to me was very concerning, because to me populism is a very shallow kind of politics. Is to appeal to the largest amount of masses that you possibly can with the least amount of information. It's not the in-depth discussion. It's not the deeper issues. It's not the deeper understanding of the philosophy or of the issue or of the debate that's going on behind the scenes. It's just the surface, the Twitter type of 120-character argument. To me, at least, that's what populism is. And I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that. But there's a need for it and a time for it and a place for it, and I think this is the time for it. So we'll get into that when we come back in the next segment. Let me know your thoughts as well with some of the comments on social media as well. Or you can email me, HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com, because I think it's an important one. Plus, there's a story that says that Donald Trump may drop out of the race. We're going into the final months of the primaries, going into a general election, he's already has the delegates he needs for the primary, and yet they're talking about him dropping out because the poll numbers are so low. Let's have some fun with that one. What do you say? All that plus the new coronavirus numbers and other things that we'll get into today on a Tuesday. It's a patriotic Tuesday going into Independence Day weekend right here on The Voice of Reason. Stay tuned.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Hey, it's Andy Hoosier. While you listen to the delightful broadcast of The Voice of Reason, don't forget to check us out and follow us on all of our social media sites. Whether you're using Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Minds.com, or Instagram, we're there for you. Find us at Hoosier Reason on any of your social media platforms. You'll see special commentary, links to the articles and news that we use on the show, and videos of the broadcast. Plus, you can directly send us a message on social media during the show to let me know your thoughts. Many already do, and it's a great chat room for all of our great listeners. And you can always sign up for the Patreon site to get exclusive content, maybe hear show products before we air them on the radio, and a lot more. And when you support us on Patreon, you also help the show be able to fight for conservative values each and every day. So it's a win-win. Just find us at Hoosier Reason on all of your social media platforms, or you can find a link to all of our social media sites on our website at HoosierReason.com. We know you're on social media already, so bring some reason into your day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.
The Hoosier Media Network is way more than just the Voice of Reason. It's your source to find numerous different online talk shows, podcasts, TV, and radio programs, all in one simple online location for you. From political talk to health talk to whatever you may be interested in, we're here for you. And I tell you, it's growing every day. Catch Tracy Maxfield with her podcast Engage, Educate, and Empower, discussing mental health issues in children and teenagers. From bullying, teenage suicide, addiction, ADHD, and so much more, learn from Tracy and her guests about symptoms, signs, and ways to talk to your children, plus so much more. Having battled depression, being the author of the internationally acclaimed book Escaping the Rabbit Hole, and being a retired nurse, Tracy is kind of the go-to on the subject. Make sure to find her on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, along with her website at tracymaxfield.com. Also, make sure to tune into the weekly podcast Jump, Pivot, and Roll with Shannon Stiles and Rachel Murphy. Taking that next big leap of faith is hard. Trying to write a book, maybe struggling with a relationship, looking to take that next big career step. What's stopping you? There's a lot of big questions there, and they're questions that Rachel and Shannon want to help with you each and every week. It's Jump, Pivot, and Roll on any of your favorite podcasting sites and on Facebook and YouTube. All of these shows and a heck of a lot more can be found on the Hoosier Media Network Facebook and YouTube channels. Make sure to follow and subscribe to check them out today. Follow all the shows, and if you have any inquiries, check us out at HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with The Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hoosierholic by going to HoosierReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hoosier Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HoosierReason.com. Oh, hi. You know, conservative messages now are more important than ever before. Election season, state legislative issues, and a rise in the radical left socialist progressive agenda. What we really need now more than ever before is knowledge and wisdom. That's where we come in. Hi, I'm Andy Hoosier with The Voice of Reason. And I'm your voice for reasonable talk, conservative commentary, great guests and entertainment on radio, TV, and the internet. It's time to bring some common sense back into the discussion. National issues, state legislative issues, no matter where you may be, upcoming elections, and a heck of a lot more, we can bring traditional values, constitutional principles, and local activism back. And here's what you can do. First, follow us on all the social media platforms at Hoosier Reason. You can watch the live stream of the show, leave comments, and even call into the program. Second, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on all of your audio devices, From iTunes and Spotify to Google Play and TuneIn, make sure to subscribe to have every episode automatically downloaded so you don't miss a single episode. Third, make sure to visit our website at HoosierReason.com. You can catch our monthly blog talking about deeper discussions, see who's coming on the program, plus you can sign up for our free monthly newsletter to catch the latest on the show, monthly topics, upcoming interviews, and more. It's time to be that local activist again. That's what the Voice of Reason's all about. Why? Because that's kind of the reasonable thing to do. And it's time for you to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason.
Hey, it's Andy Hoosier with the Voice of Reason. The show's growing all the time, and as we talk about the big issues of the day, one of the big parts of the program is you. And I want you to join us on the program. Whether you agree, disagree, or just want to relieve some of that political frustration, we're here for you. No matter where you may be watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment on the live stream. Chat with other listeners and let me know your thoughts on the topic. Also chat with us on the Podbean chat room. Just go to our live stream of the show at podbean.com and chat with other listeners. You can also call into the program. Just download the Podbean app onto your smartphone, join the live stream, and call in through the app. This is your show, and we want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and join us here on the Voice of Reason and the Hoosier Media Network.
When Reason Meets Radio. You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yes, you are. Welcome into the Voice of Reason. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Rebranding the young generation, one radio listener at a time. Radio, TV, online streaming, podcasting, doesn't really matter where you're at. We appreciate it very much. We are expanding. We have downloads of the podcast in almost all 50 states.
Don't act like you're not impressed.
Yeah, I know, right? And it's growing, too. I'm telling you, outside of Kansas, Michigan and Texas are the two states with the biggest and most amount of downloads, which is awesome. I don't even know anybody around those, so thank you, wherever you may be listening out there. We have Washington that's rocking it. We have Massachusetts that's starting to pick up there as well. Oklahoma's doing very well. California killing it with a lot of listenership. We're going to get into your market radio-wise, I promise you. We're going to be making this. I've been getting some emails from people. By the way, if you live, depending on wherever you're at in the nation, if you live in a place where we're not in your radio market, email me. Go to HoosierReason.com. You can email me. Let me know what state, what town, and what your talk station is in that area, and we'll be calling them and getting them to pick up the program. So you can always email us, HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Go to HoosierReason.com as well. You can send an email that way. And I would love to be able to talk to them and let me know what area that you're listening from. We appreciate that. All right, let's get into this conversation. I think it's a great conversation to have. It's a patriotic week. It's a Tuesday. We can kind of think a little bit deeply today. As first off, we see a headline from Fox News. This is strange to me. I don't know where this came from, but apparently there's a secret operative, which I don't know if you've noticed or not. There's been secret operatives under the Trump campaign and the Trump administration since the beginning of the campaign and the administration. There's been secret operatives leaking information, unlike Barack Obama's time, unlike Bill Clinton's time, unlike George W. Bush's time, unlike anybody else's time. They were always people that, when you actually had a secret meeting, you had a secret meeting. Not secret, but just closed doors because there was sensitive information or things that were going on that were in the works before they released them to the public, whatever it was. But there seems to be a leak from the Trump administration every couple of days about plans for military action, about things that he said, things that he's done, how he treats people. And a lot of it's not even true, but they release these things because they despise Trump that much. So the guy, the populist outside of the system, getting into the system, and then people don't like it, so they're trying to oust him. And has it worked so far? I don't think so. I mean, he just had how many people show up to a rally in Oklahoma? He's got more rallies scheduled all over the country. The polling doesn't show it, which a lot of pundits are getting nervous about the polling. But again, I don't think a lot of people are wanting to show their support openly or verbally to Donald Trump, but they're going to show up to the polls. I still think, along with the pundit that we've had here on the show, that Donald Trump's going to win by a landslide this year. And I think the virus is helping him. Or at least it has so far. We'll see if it continues on throughout the fall. Because Democrats are exposing themselves by wanting to lock down the nation, by wanting to keep the economy shut down, so that way the economy is really bad, so that way it looks bad on him when he actually tries to run against Joe Biden. Joe Biden hides in his basement and tries to call out Donald Trump and says that he's incapable of actually handling the crises when he's sitting in a basement wearing a mask by himself. To me, that seems a little crazy. But, you know, hey, what do you do? That's Joe Biden, and that's the supporters of Joe Biden. I'm still curious of Joe Biden supporters, whether they vote for him or whether they support him because they actually like him, or whether it's just because that's what they have and that's the candidate that they got stuck with. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, most states went towards Joe Biden, obviously, which is why he won, technically, unofficially, won the nomination. They haven't had the DNC convention yet. But he's going to be the nominee. So I don't know. It's kind of funky to me. And we'll see how he pans out come the general election. But let's talk about populism let's talk about two things for a second. Nationalism and populism. Because the book that we just talked about with our guest, How the Elites Created the National Populist Revolution. And I know this gets into the weeds a little bit, but I enjoy this, and I think that a lot of people need to hear this, especially with what's going on and what's trending in the nation today. The national populist movement, the nationalism. That's already got a bad connotation, right? The white nationalist, the evil white supremacist, the white nationalist that runs this nation. That's what they always say, right? That's what we hear every single day. Nationalism, if you look at the definition, is nothing more than believing in your country so strongly that you believe your country is better than other nations. That's it. Sure, I'm a nationalist. I am patriotic and I am a nationalist. I believe nothing derogatory against anybody. It's like rooting for your football team. I believe that the United States of America is the greatest nation on the face of the earth, period, end of story, exclamation point. We've had our flaws, we've had our issues, we're evolving, we continue to grow, we continue to make things better, but our poor are the richest poor in the entire world. We've come a long leaps and bounds from slavery, which, by the way, the Founding Fathers did want to end slavery, which is why they created, during the Declaration of Independence, all men are created equal under God. But they knew at that time it was not, they're fighting a civil war or a revolutionary war, trying to start a nation. Doing something like abolishing slavery at that time was just a little bit over the hill that they could possibly try to accomplish in one time. Had to do it in baby steps. But they knew it. They knew it, that it would happen down the road. All men are created equal under God, which is what they wrote. And they won that. Many of the Founding Fathers were slave owners, yes. But many of them were not. And they tried to advocate for that. And look where we've come. We have women voting. We have rights for everybody. And again, I asked this yesterday, name one right that's not granted to an individual today. Not a special super duper protected right that the government has to create for individuals, but an actual natural God-given right that people cannot enjoy. Name one that we don't get to enjoy in the nation, that anybody in the nation does not get to enjoy because it doesn't happen. That's nationalism. We love our nation. We love our country. And as we said in the last segment, the reason that we're seeing right now people tearing down statues, the reason we see protests with people burning the American flag, the reason we see people wanting to burn down nations or burn down the nation and burn down cities with the autonomous zone and trying to burn different targets in different police stations and whatever else they're trying to do is because, unlike many of us, they never grew up with that emotional, deep connection to the flag and to the nation, to where when we see the American flag rising, when we hear the national anthem, we get emotional, we weep, and we say, God bless America. Because we have that emotional connection. And let me tell you something. This is going to be, by the way, in the newsletter this month. So I can give you a little teaser if you're not signed up. If you're not, then what the heck, man? Become a Hoosierholic. But this is what the problem is. Conservatives, constitutionalists, you and I, we have failed. We have failed big time because we took it for granted. And we thought, we assumed, and we expected everybody to just by default show that respect and have that emotional connection to the flag. We didn't teach it. We just expected it to be there. We assumed it would always be there because we had it. We don't remember the first time that we saw our parents doing it. When the flag was raised and everybody stopped and they gave their respects to the American flag, when we did a proper retirement of the flag and you burn it in a proper manner with a ceremony, when you fold the flag and you understand the 13 folds and you understand the different colors on the flag and what it represents and you understand the national anthem, when you hear these things, you and I, we have an emotional connection to that. And it's very, very sweet and it's very, very deep. and we love our nation dearly. But those that did not grow up with that, the ones that didn't get taught that at the very beginning when they were children, they don't have that emotional connection. It's like a puppy dog. Most people are biologically, genetically engineered to love puppy dogs because they're cute and they're sweet and the most wonderful thing in the entire face of the earth. Many don't, though. Personally, I was one of them. I've gotten attached to the dog that we have. I have. She's been with us, 3-4 years now. I've been emotionally attached to her now. But for the longest time, I wasn't. I just, it was a puppy dog. Okay, whatever. Didn't bother me. Because I didn't grow up with that. I grew up on a farm where they ran the field and they lived in the barn and they did their thing and you just didn't deal with them. They just kept the other animals away to protect the animals that we had in the barn. That was their duty and there was no emotional connection to it. And it was okay. I didn't grow up that way. So I didn't have that emotional connection. That's how some individuals were raised with the American flag. It wasn't something that was prideful. It wasn't something that they were taught, hey, when the national anthem starts playing, you stop, you take your hat off, you put your hand over your heart, and you stand there and show respect to it. They didn't have that. So, of course, they're not going to show respect to it when they get older and they're wanting to change the world. Of course they're not going to show that type of respect because they weren't taught that. So we failed there because when we debate nowadays, we assume that is the general basis of the starting point for all of us, and we go into the analytical side of it, tax rates and percentages and stats, which I'm a stat guru. I love that stuff because that's what wins the debate. In politics, it's not emotion, it's straight fact and hard evidence, and that's what we move forward with to be able to make our argument, and we want to win that argument, and that's great. But if there's no emotional attachment at the end of the day to bring everybody together as a unified group, as an American, then we're going to fail. The fabric of society that intertwines all of us together, the melting pot of all the different multicultural units that come in to this nation, different cultures, different religions, different languages, different foods, different music, different people, different ideas. We are the strongest nation on the face of the earth because of that. Because at the end of the day, all those different multicultural things come together and say, we're American. And we're together. And because of that, we became the strongest nation on the face of the earth because no other nation was able to do that. But now we're falling apart. That thread is beginning to untwine itself. Because we didn't teach the one unifying thing we had, which was the American flag and American identity. And that American identity is falling apart because the ones that are growing up now didn't get taught that, so therefore they don't respect it and they don't understand it. So the question is, how do we get it back? So when we talk about populism, populism is, to me, kind of the short version of politics because you get a one-word tweet, you get a one-word context, and you push it out to the big masses and try and move it, which is dangerous. But at the same time, right now, I think it's necessary. I think we need it. So when we come back for the final segment, we'll talk about why it's necessary, why Donald Trump is necessary right now, why we need to continue on with this populist movement, and how we can utilize it in the future for the conservative constitutionalist movement as we go about. Until then, we're going to celebrate with Independence Day and enjoy a patriotic holiday. What do you say? Let's do it here on The Voice of Reason.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Hey, it's Andy Hoosier. While you listen to the delightful broadcast of The Voice of Reason, don't forget to check us out and follow us on all of our social media sites. Whether you're using Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Minds.com, or Instagram, we're there for you. Find us at Hoosier Reason on any of your social media platforms. You'll see special commentary, links to the articles and news that we use on the show, and videos of the broadcast. Plus, you can directly send us a message on social media during the show to let me know your thoughts. Many already do, and it's a great chat room for all of our great listeners. And you can always sign up for the Patreon site to get exclusive content, maybe hear show products before we air them on the radio, and a lot more. And when you support us on Patreon, you also help the show be able to fight for conservative values each and every day. So it's a win-win. Just find us at Hoosier Reason on all of your social media platforms, or you can find a link to all of our social media sites on our website at HoosierReason.com. We know you're on social media already, so bring some reason into your day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Miss part of the show? Don't worry about it. There's plenty of ways to catch the program, and here's how you can do it. First, make sure to tune in every day right here on your favorite radio station.
We're here for you.
Second, subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite sites. YouTube and iTunes, Spotify and Google Play, TuneIn, Podbean, and more. Have the show automatically downloaded to your favorite device. Last, visit our website at HoosierReason.com. You can listen to the podcast, catch our special features, and more. It's the Voice of Reason on radio, TV, and online, helping you defend and preserve this great republic. Hey, it's Andy Hoosier. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HoosierReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HoosierReason.com.
Oh, hi. You know, conservative messages now are more important than ever before. Election season, state legislative issues, and a rise in the radical left socialist progressive agenda. What we really need now more than ever before is knowledge and wisdom. That's where we come in. Hi, I'm Andy Hoosier with the Voice of Reason. And I'm your voice for reasonable talk, conservative commentary, great guests and entertainment on radio, TV, and the internet. It's time to bring some common sense back into the discussion. National issues, state legislative issues, no matter where you may be, upcoming elections, and a heck of a lot more, we can bring traditional values, constitutional principles, and local activism back. And here's what you can do. First, follow us on all the social media platforms at Hoosier Reason. You can watch the live stream of the show, leave comments, and even call into the program. Second, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on all of your audio devices, from iTunes and Spotify to Google Play and TuneIn. Make sure to subscribe to have every episode automatically downloaded so you don't miss a single episode. Third, make sure to visit our website at HoosierReason.com. You can catch our monthly blog talking about deeper discussions, see who's coming on the program, plus you can sign up for our free monthly newsletter to catch the latest on the show, monthly topics, upcoming interviews, and more. It's time to be that local activist again. That's what the Voice of Reason's all about. Why? Because that's kind of the reasonable thing to do. And it's time for you to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with the Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hoosierholic by going to HoosierReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe to any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hoosier Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HoosierReason.com. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the program today. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite podcasting sites and have the show automatically downloaded to your phone or computer every single day. Just find us on any podcasting site or go to HoosierReason.podbean.com. And be sure to check out our Patreon site, become the ultimate Hoosierholic, and help us fight for conservative values every day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Now back to the national broadcast of the Voice of Reason.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
I cannot believe how fast this show goes. By the way, just to wrap up that conversation in the last segment about nationalism, the way to win people over, as much as it is for you and I to want to be like, oh, you don't like the flag? Here you go. I want you to rub your face in it. Enjoy it. Is that usually the response and the thought that runs through our minds when something like that happens? Oh, you don't like the national anthem? We're going to play it louder and every single day for you until you get absolutely annoyed and hate it even more. That's as much as we like to do that. That's sometimes the wrong approach to do that because we want to win people over. We lead by example. If we want someone to respect and love the flag as much as we do and the deep appreciation we have for the nation and the symbolism that represents this nation, not what it is, but what the vision of the nation is, if that makes any sense. Not what the government does, not who we are right at this moment, if we don't like it or we like it or whatever, but what the vision of this nation is, the American dream, why so many people flood our borders every single year. We have to teach that, lead it by example. And our children see that. When you lead by example, the children see that. And they feed upon it. And they grow, and it festers inside them. And I think that's a good thing. Now, when it comes to populism, real quickly, as you know, and as I've mentioned, I'm not the biggest fan of populism because populism kind of takes the smallest amount of information for the largest. It's almost like a mob mentality, in my opinion. And if you're a populist, nothing against you here. This is just the way I interpret populism, is that it's kind of the mob mentality. You rally the largest amount of people with the least amount of information in order to kind of win over the other side. And it can be good if it's on your side, and it can be bad if it's on the opposition side. Populism can work either way. But to me, it's almost like a democracy, which democracy, if anybody understands, is actually very bad because the 51% overrules the 49%. And if you have a populist movement, you want to have the loudest voice and just the slim majority margin over the other group, and that way you can do whatever you want to. And that can be very dangerous, in my opinion. So I'm not the biggest fan of populism, which is why I was skeptical of someone like Donald Trump. However, the reason why Donald Trump is absolutely necessary now more than ever before is because we have essentially a populist political system already, where we don't get the most amount of information because the elites at the top kind of hold on to it and they pull the strings and they do what they want to do. And then they kind of just trickle out a little bit of information to rally their bases for the political system. And we don't get the full story. So we already have a populist system. We're just not part of it. And that's scary and that's sad because it's already happening, but the elites are controlling it and we don't have a say in it. And we think we do, but we really don't. So Donald Trump comes in because American people, the working class, the blue-collar worker, the factory worker, the truck driver, the welder, the plumber, the electrician, the average Joe Schmo just going about their day that tries to put on the blinders because they don't want to hear about politics because it frustrates the heck out of them and they just get angry with it. Those finally said, enough is enough, and we're going to go and do something about it. And we're going to vote for someone to overturn the system. Be the bull in the china shop and just destroy the system so we can start anew. And I love that mindset right now because that's what we need. If we had someone like I had originally voted for and supported, like Ted Cruz, the constitutionalist, the brainiac, it wouldn't have had an impact because the system was built against him and he would have had to play the system in order to try and beat the system. And you can't beat the system at its own system. You can't. So populism on the people's side said enough's enough. We're going to go in. We're going to change this. We're going to start weeding out these people, exposing who they are, exposing what's done. Then, once we take the system back, then it's time for a constitutionalist to come in and rebuild it with constitutional values again, conservative principles again. It's a process. And I was jumping the gun a little bit before in the 2016 election. That's why it's needed. That's why populism, in the proper sense, can have its uses. Not that should run politics for the entire nation for a long stint of time, but to fix the system that's been used against, sure. Now, I know it's a very grand 1,000-foot scale view of the political system because there's a lot of weeds in there, but that's kind of the grand hoorah for the day because we're going into an Independence Weekend where we pretty much said just a few hundred years ago, to heck with it, we're going to tell the government to go pound sand because we're not going to take your taxes any longer because you're not going to tell us how to live our life. You're not going to take my cannon away from me, and we're going to go do our own thing. To heck with you guys. We'll see you later. And I'm not saying that's what needs to be happening today, but we do need to tell the government, remind them that we're here and we're not going anywhere and that they're not going to tell us what to do each and every day. They're not going to control us like they've tried to do and create a political system where they say they're for us, but they really have nothing for us as well. And we got to remind them of that. And we got to remind the citizens that don't have that emotional connection that there is an emotional connection and we can mend that fabric of society again that is that great American dream. That's it for us today. We'll back at it tomorrow. Make sure to tune in. It's going to be a great show tomorrow. Until then, be your own voice of reason. It's time for you to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. This is the Voice of Reason. Everybody have a great evening. Hey, it's Andy Hoosier with the Voice of Reason. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left seems to find new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back, and we can help with that. Visit our website at HoosierReason.com. There's some really great stuff for you. You can read the latest blog discussing topical issues and current events. Let us know your thoughts by filling out our monthly survey. Keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Listen to the podcast of your favorite guest or show, and check out our latest Voice of Reason product infomercials. Plus, you can find upcoming show schedules and guest lineups to plan your radio listening appropriately. And finally, make sure to become a Hoosier-holic by subscribing to the free newsletter. Stay up to date on the latest news of the show, fun facts of the month, and learn new ways to defend and preserve this great republic. It's all there at HoosierReason.com. Again, HoosierReason.com. Go check it out. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.